There are three different instrument approach procedure types. In this example, you can see all three. From left to right, you've got a VOR approach, which is an on-precision approach, will be discussed a bit later. In the middle, you've got a minima associated with an APV, or approach procedure with vertical guidance. And on the right, you've got a precision approach, which is a GBus landing system approach. On non-precision approaches, we are only provided lateral guidance along the final approach segment. Here you can see some examples: VOR approaches, NDB approaches, localizer, and RNP approaches. In the case of RNP approaches, there can be an APV, which is the LNAV-VNAV minima, will be discussed later, and the non-precision approach is the one with the LNAV minima. If you're using that minima, that's considered a non-precision approach. On approach procedure with vertical guidance, we've got lateral guidance provided either by RNP approach, RNP AR approach, or advanced RNP navigation specifications. Vertically, we are provided with baro-VNAV guidance, which is coded into the FMS database, and is flown using your barometric reference on your airplane. It can also be flown by using S-bus equipment down to an LPV minima with a type A minima, which is above 250 feet. Here you can find some examples. The title is the RNP approach or RNP AR, and the minima which you're going to use depends on your equipment and your operational approval. S-bus APV use the LPV minima, which is localizer performance with vertical guidance, and baro-VNAV use the right side LNAV-VNAV minima. When using baro-VNAV for the final approach segment, there may be some temperature limitations. Those are published in the chart. Precision approach procedures provided with lateral and vertical guidance down to a type A or type B minima. Type B means it can be lower than 250 feet. Instrument approach operations is basically how you're going to fly the approach. Are you going to use lateral guidance? Are you going to use vertical guidance? And which one is available for you? Amsterdam RNP approach runway 06. We've got lateral guidance provided by RNP approach navigation specification, and vertically you can conduct either 2D or 3D instrument approach operations. If you use the LPV or the LNAV-VNAV minima, you're conducting an APV, an approach procedure with vertical guidance, either using your S-bus equipment or your baro-VNAV equipment, which means your FMS coded vertical path. Those cases are considered to be 3D operations. On the right, you got LNAV CDFA minima. CDFA means you gotta use a continuous descent on final approach. That will be explained later, but you can either fly it using your FMS with the assistance of baro-VNAV, then it will be considered a 3D operation, or you can manually select the flight path angle or the vertical speed on the final segment all the way to the minima. Then that case is considered to be a 2D operation. CDFA is one of the three techniques recommended by PANSOPs to fly the final segment on a non-precision approach procedure. This technique allows you to fly a constant descent from the final approach phase all the way to 50 feet or the height from which you'll start a flare. This vertical path can be either manually calculated by you or manually selected, or can be extracted from your navigation database and flown by using your FMS with the assistance of baro-VNAV equipment. If you manually calculate that descent or you manually select the flight path angle on the final segment, you're conducting 2D operations. If you fly it using your FMS, then that's a 3D operation. Here's a little bit more information about CDFA. And remember, there are three options to fly the final approach segment on a non-precision approach in the vertical plane. The CDFA technique is the most recommended, the safest, and the most efficient. The new document 8168 edition includes a lot of user-friendly information about CDFA, final approach segment, 2D, 3D operations, PBN departures, PBN en route, PBN arrivals, and approaches. Okay, now to summarize, let's do a couple of examples. First one, you're going to perform the RNP runway 16 in Baku. You want to manually control your vertical path on the final approach. So let's say you're flying the Airbus, you want to do NAV FPA. Laterally you'll use the NAV mode, which is like LNAV in other aircraft. And vertically, you will manually select your FPA. You will use CDFA in this case. So you use the published CDFA table as a reference down to your minima. In this case, you just conducted a 2D instrument approach. Okay, now today you're flying to Maldives, RNP runway 36. You're flying on a fully equipped aircraft, fully compliant, hold the operational approval for RNP approach down to Barrow VNAV, minima, so which means you can fly the APV. You're going to use the minima LNAV VNAV, 320 feet, that's your DA. The table on the right, recommended altitude is if you're going to use CDFA for the LNAV minima, so in this case it's not applicable for you. And reaching your final approach phase, you arm your approach, you start your descent, you monitor your flight instruments within the parameters of your stable approach criteria in your company, and you're going to ensure that the vertical path is within plus or minus 75 feet, as stated by ICAO, or by your operator if it's more restrictive. And you arrive to your DA, you go around, or you land. You had positive vertical guidance on the final approach, and you conducted a 3D instrument approach operation.